Days of Our Lives, Thursday recap. Chanel learns she's pregnant. Thursday's episode of Days of Our Lives delivered one of those classic Salem hours that fans will be talking about for weeks: emotional revelations, whispered secrets, and one life-changing moment that sent shockwaves through multiple families. At the heart of it all was Chanel Dupree d'Aimera, whose world was turned upside down when a quiet suspicion became an undeniable truth: she's pregnant. But in true Days fashion, this revelation didn't exist in isolation. It rippled outward, touching Johnny, Paulina, Abe, and even bringing old fears and unresolved conflicts roaring back to the surface. By the time the episode ended, it was clear that this pregnancy would not be a simple blessing. It would be a test of love, faith, and identity for everyone involved. The episode opened softly, with sunlight filtering through the windows of the d'Aimera townhouse. Chanel sat on the edge of the bed, one hand resting against her stomach as she stared into space. Something was off. She felt it in her bones. Johnny d'Aimera stirred beside her, smiling sleepily as he reached for her. "Morning, beautiful," he murmured. Chanel forced a smile, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Johnny noticed immediately. He always did. "What's wrong?" he asked gently. Chanel hesitated. "Nothing. I'm just tired." But tired didn't begin to cover it. Over the past few weeks, Chanel had been battling waves of nausea, exhaustion, and strange emotional swings she couldn't explain. She had chalked it up to stress, the bakery, family drama, the constant push and pull of life in Salem. Still, deep down, a quiet fear had begun to grow. Johnny kissed her forehead and jumped out of bed, already talking about a meeting he had later at d'Aimera Enterprises. Chanel nodded along, barely hearing him. As soon as Johnny left the room, Chanel's composure cracked. She pressed her palm to her stomach again, whispering to herself, "Please don't let this be what I think it is." At Sweet Bits Bakery, Chanel tried to throw herself into work. Dough was kneaded too aggressively. Frosting was spread too thick. Her mind was elsewhere, and Allie Horton noticed immediately. "You're going to murder that cupcake if you keep glaring at it like that," Allie teased. Chanel sighed and leaned against the counter. "I think something's wrong with me." Allie's smile faded. "Okay, that sounded ominous." Chanel lowered her voice. "I've been sick. A lot. And I'm late." Allie's eyes widened. Late. Chanel nodded slowly. "I didn't want to say anything until I was sure." "I haven't even told Johnny." Allie grabbed her hands. "Chanel, have you taken a test?" Chanel shook her head. "I'm scared." That word, scared, hung heavy between them. Allie gently but firmly insisted they go to the hospital. Chanel resisted at first, but another wave of nausea convinced her she couldn't keep avoiding the truth. Meanwhile, Paulina Price was already in full mama bear mode, despite not knowing exactly why. She stopped by the bakery unannounced, immediately sensing Chanel's anxiety. "Baby, you look like you just saw a ghost," Paulina said, narrowing her eyes. Chanel tried to brush it off, but Paulina wasn't buying it. "You don't keep secrets from your mama," Paulina insisted. Chanel swallowed hard. "I might be pregnant." Paulina froze. Then, slowly, a smile spread across her face, followed by concern. "Might be," she repeated. "As in, we don't know yet." Chanel nodded. Paulina exhaled, pulling Chanel into a tight hug. Okay. One step at a time. Let's get you checked out." Though Paulina was trying to stay calm, her thoughts were racing. A grandbaby? A d'Aimera baby? Joy mixed with fear, because in Salem, nothing was ever simple. At Salem University Hospital, Chanel sat nervously in an exam room, twisting her hands together as Ellie and Paulina waited nearby. The doctor returned with a gentle smile, the kind that says everything before words are spoken. "Well," the doctor said, "the test is positive." Chanel's breath caught. Positive. One word. One moment. One irreversible change. I'm pregnant." Chanel whispered. "Yes," the doctor confirmed. "Congratulations." The room went silent. Paulina gasped, tears immediately forming in her eyes. "Oh my God," Paulina said. "My baby's having a baby." Allie smiled warmly, squeezing Chanel's hand. But Chanel? She didn't smile. Not yet. Her emotions crashed over her all at once: joy, terror, disbelief, hope, fear. She pressed her hand to her stomach again, this time with purpose. "There's really a baby," she asked, her voice trembling. The doctor nodded. You're only a few weeks along, but everything looks good so far. As the doctor left, Paulina started talking a mile a minute about baby showers, names, and nursery colors, until Chanel finally spoke. I don't know how Johnny's going to feel. Back at DI Mirror Enterprises, Johnny sat across from EJ, barely paying attention as his father talked business. Something felt off, the same strange pull Chanel had felt earlier. Johnny checked his phone, noticing several missed calls from Ellie. Excuse me, Johnny said abruptly, standing up. EJ frowned. This better not be about pastries. Johnny ignored him and stepped into the hallway, calling Ellie back. When she answered, her voice was cautious. Is Chanel okay? Johnny asked immediately. She will be, Ellie replied. But, you need to come to the hospital. Johnny's heart dropped. Why? Ellie paused. She should tell you herself. That was all it took. Johnny rushed out, fear gnawing at him with every step. Johnny burst into the hospital room, breathless and panicked. Chanel, he said. What's wrong? Are you hurt? Chanel looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. No, she said softly. I'm not hurt. Johnny knelt in front of her. Then what is it? Chanel took a shaky breath. I'm pregnant. The words landed like a thunderclap. Johnny blinked, stunned. You're pregnant? She nodded. For a long moment, Johnny said nothing. Chanel's fear deepened with every second of silence. I didn't plan this, she rushed to say. I don't even know if I'm ready. Johnny cut her off by pulling her into his arms. We're having a baby, he said, voice breaking. Chanel sobbed against his chest, this time in relief. Paulina wiped her eyes, whispering, Lord, thank you. Johnny pulled back, cradling Chanel's face. This is amazing, he said. Terrifying, but amazing. Chanel laughed weakly. That's exactly how I feel. But even as they smiled at each other, the weight of reality loomed. A baby meant responsibility, stability, and a future tied forever to the DI Mirror name, a legacy filled with secrets, enemies, and danger. Later, alone with Paulina, Chanel admitted her deepest fear. What if I mess this up? Chanel asked. What if I'm not enough? Paulina cupped her daughter's face. Baby, you are more than enough. And you're not alone. The episode ended with Chanel and Johnny standing together outside the hospital, watching the sun set over Salem. Johnny slipped his hand into hers. Everything's going to change, he said. Chanel nodded. Yeah. She placed his hand on her stomach. But maybe, she added softly, it's the beginning of something beautiful. As the camera pulled back, ominous music hinted that while joy had arrived, trouble wouldn't be far behind. Because in Salem, happiness is always tested.